The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the speakers or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by the producers of this broadcast. The material herein is for entertainment purposes only.
Welcome to another episode of Scary Stories with Kalila. I'm Kalila Smith, coming to you live from New Orleans, and with me we have our co-host Lynda Salazar, coming to us live from Virginia, and we have the great Allan Gilbreath, our skeptic.
Hello.
Coming to you live from the great city of Memphis. So welcome, everybody.
Hello, hola, hola.
Hola.
How's everyone doing?
I think everybody's doing great. Everybody's doing great. So tonight we have a great show lined up. We are going to be talking about urban legends. And I think everybody's heard of urban legends. And it's funny how urban legends start in one place and then they wind up over here and then they wind up over here. There are some stories that they come from way on the other side of the earth and they somehow come here, but they make their way around. And I'm going to start off with one of the urban legends that I heard. I'm going back to my childhood. I guess that's an old person thing that I'm reliving my childhood. But anyway, this urban legend, I didn't realize when it was told to me that it was an urban legend. I was a small child, maybe 7, 8 years old. And the neighbor kids were a lot older than me. So I got picked on a lot because I was the little kid. And they told me this story. They told me this horrible story about a little girl who was 8 years old. And she was afraid at night of the dark, which I was, because why? Because I had big lizard people and dead people running around my room. But anyway, just saying, she's afraid. She's afraid. Okay, Allan, hear me out here. Don't zip it.
I said nothing. I said nothing.
It was a sign.
I didn't bring up childhood trauma or anything. I left it alone.
So they had this story about this little girl. They told me about the little girl, and every night they said she would be so afraid. But her parents got her a dog, this little black Cocker Spaniel. It was really weird because I had a little black Cocker Spaniel. Mm-hmm. And she would keep the little black Cocker Spaniel, and it would go under her bed at night. And when she would feel afraid and she was worried that something would be under the bed and grab her leg and yank her under, she put her hand down by the bed, and the little dog would lick her, and she'd pet the little dog, and then she would feel safe, and she would go to sleep. Well, one night she heard something in her room, scratching and scratching, and she heard some whimpering, and she heard some dripping, and she got very, very afraid, and she put her hand very cautiously down underneath her bed, and she felt a lick. But when she went to pet the dog, she couldn't find him. So she started getting a little worried, so she got up, and she very cautiously turned the light on, and on the wall, Fluffy is stuffed on the wall with these nails through him and the blood dripping down. And then suddenly she worries about what might be under the bed. When she looks under, there was an escaped lunatic that had come out of the mental institute, because they always had that in the neighborhood, right? And he was under the bed like this, like a dog. And he said, humans can lick too. Now, I didn't know until I was an adult that was an urban legend. So that haunted me my entire life as a child. Allan, go ahead and take a hold and have at it, honey, because I know you're dying to say something.
I think that was self-explanatory, but I see as a small child that is utterly terrifying.
It was horrifying, yes.
That is just mental trauma.
It is.
People would go to jail today for telling children stuff like that.
Yes.
Well, it was other children. They were just bigger children.
And nothing is meaner or more cruel
than other children, yes.
And it makes it that is very cruel. That's cruel because there you are, trying to have a comfy night, and we're already scared at what goes bump in the night as children, Well, some of us, okay? Unlike
not Allan.
Not Allan. Allan goes and grabs
it. Because it's a raccoon, I know.
Or it's some mud something.
A mud puppy or a mud pie or something. I don't know.
Something mud. Allan has it. So
Well, the foolish thing about it is I didn't even realize that was an urban legend. I just thought, wow, that's just a fantastic story that they told me as a kid. And then as I'm looking for this show, I see that's like the #1 urban legend out there. And I was like, wow, boy, I was really hoodwinked, wasn't I? They got me.
Well, I mean, it's such an easy play on somebody's fears, especially if you know they already have them. So I mean, obviously everybody knew you were afraid of the dark.
Yes.
So, I mean, let's face it, as far as a horrible urban legend goes, that one doesn't have a lot of imagination.
It didn't take much.
It's perfectly effective.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking a small child that's already afraid of the dark, and now we're just going to take a 6-penny nail and drive that baby home. And then of course you add the little touch of insert a favorite toy, dog, pet, whatever. And now you have the crazy thing under the bed.
Escaped lunatic from the mental
fill in the blank here. Zombies, vampires, escaped lunatics. Never mind the mental thought that had to go into how did we get a full-grown lunatic into the house and under the bed. When you're two, you don't worry about logistics.
Yeah, you really
Lunatics
don't.
can be anywhere. They're in the closet.
They could be anywhere.
They can be anywhere. So,
and in my case, he could have been already dead. So,
Yeah.
Right. You never know. I mean, so that added to the terror. But anyway, it was a great story, and it's kind of fun looking back and going, wow, somebody told that to those kids, and they probably didn't realize it was an urban legend either. And then you really start wondering, where do these urban legends come from? And are there any facts? Because every legend out there comes from something.
Generally, they find most of these urban legends come out of somebody's short story someplace or storytelling competition somewhere.
No, not necessarily. It can come from folklore. I mean, take vampires, for instance. A lot of the vampire folklore came from the misunderstanding of the disease process and the death and the decomposition process of that time. So, people were, cracking open graves, and because somebody might have been buried in the winter or something, what have you, they might have not been in the right state of decomposition. And this is where a lot of those, folklore tales came from with vampires, werewolves, for instance. I mean, a lot of them think that came from people living out in the woods and getting rabies from wolves.
Well, you had rabies, porphyria, any number of genetic problems caused by inbreeding. Hate to bring that up, but we're talking about isolated little villages off in the mountains somewhere. Not a lot of genetic variation here. You hate to bring these things up sometimes because people might be offended, but the history of the human race is not pretty. We're not nice things.
Actually, there is a photographer who has been following, and this I've seen this pop up, has been following a family that is inbreds in the mountains. So it is true, and he's bringing it out to light. It's even on YouTube, and he's done a documentary. So,
oh dear God.
So it's true. I mean, I know a lot of people it's something you really can't get offended when the facts are there and the truth is there. So
you shouldn't get offended.
You
can if you want to.
You can, but it's true. And there's a photographer currently at this moment that had been following a family around that allowed him to take photos of them as like family portrait type of photos, not anything but the artistic black and white photos. And there's also a documentary that's out there, and I think he's making like a documentary movie type of it where it's independent, an indie, but it's out there. I've seen it. A matter of fact, it caught my interest when I saw the photos. I was like, what's this? And it turns out that it is about, so it's there. It's there.
But you see, but these are the kind of things, where I guess these urban legends come from, and they become urban legends because they're around for so many eons, and you can look at the progression of them from when they were told maybe 100 years ago, and they'll change with the times. I mean, one of the classic urban legends that's all over the place, all over the southern. I mean, both of you guys are from Texas, for God's sakes, and I've written about Miami and all in Mexico. I mean, La Llorona. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
And the La Llorona story is everywhere now. It's everywhere, and you can't even really pinpoint where it originated because it's so prevalent everywhere.
You can't, and
you have to wonder, did La Llorona happen?
Well, yeah, and there's so many different stories of, like you said, so many different stories of La Llorona, and there's so many different views and takes on it. So it's exactly what you're saying. You just don't know where it originated from. Californians are taking it as they own it. Texans are saying, no, this started in our area.
I always thought it started in a particular little town on a riverbank in Mexico. That's right.
And you see, we Texans, and of course Mexico was part of Texas, and Mexico also owned
was part of California. Right. It could have been. That's right. Yeah, that was Mexico at the time. So that's
you can see the tug of war there. It's a tug of war. Californians are like, well, it started here, and we're like, well, we grew up here, so it's like it's here in Texas. So it's a back and forth thing.
And it could very well have been Mexico at the time when it originated. But you just
even
look
the
at
urban
this.
legends are bigger in Texas, is what you're saying.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, I tell you what, we'll throw another urban legend at everybody as soon as we come back from this break.
Submitted for your approval. New Orleans. Seductive, magical, mysterious, and haunted. There is no place on this earth with as much ghost and vampire activity as New Orleans. Imagine, if you will, a tour that takes you to sites in the French Quarter of actual documented hauntings. The Haunted History Tour is just that tour. Every day, every night, all year round. This tour has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, and it's available to you. Are there ghosts and vampires in the French Quarter? Find out by taking the tour that everyone is talking about, the Haunted History Tour. For more information, call Haunted History Tours at 861-2727. That's 861-2727. This is not a Halloween spookhouse. This is real.
Okay, we're back. All right, Lynda, I know you've been researching those urban legends, and I think you came up with a really fun one.
Well, yeah, actually, I came up with a few of them. I know there are two of the ones, and I had to go with this one. So we all know about the babysitter. We all know about how that took place in the 60s and how it took place. But there's a take on this. There is also one called The Stranger Living Inside Your House. So there's a spinoff to this. This kind of freaked me out because it kind of ties in with, I can understand why the babysitter and somebody calling within your house. But there is actually, the myth is where a person is in your attic, they've been living in your garage, or they have a secret room hidden, and they are just loosely, the walls, they're going through the walls of your home, and they're eating your food. You're finding things misplaced. You think your house is haunted. You're wondering, is it is it a poltergeist? Is it haunted? What's going on? I could have sworn I put this milk up, but now the milk is out. I thought I turned around and saw somebody, run past me. Well, people were saying that it was an urban legend myth, but spinoff urban legends do sometimes come from truth. So I have to tell you that the truth is, the real terror is that the tales do come true. And it's because of the fact that on the urban legend facts of it, there are some cases where folks were terrorized by folks that were living in their home. They moved into the house, and these were considered what were known as squatters. So sometimes if you hear bumps in the nights and you see something walking by, a shadow, I don't know, you just moved into your house and it's been vacant for a while, you better go check those attics or the basement. Just saying, because there could be a possibility that there's a squatter who doesn't want to live, and they're going to try to scare you out of your house. So
I guess it could happen. I mean, it's like,
There,
but
there's
okay, now to play the devil's advocate, I got to say, okay, they're stealing your food. They're living in the attic. I mean, come on, if you're down here, the attic's like 200 degrees, it wouldn't work. But so they're living in your garage. Wouldn't you smell them after a while? I mean, come on, wouldn't you smell them? Wouldn't you just smell the fact that they hadn't showered? I mean, come on.
hey,
Something
don't
would
you,
tip you off.
don't we go grocery shopping? Don't we go somewhere? Don't we have to go? And that's the thing. We're not thinking that anybody's living in the house. Anybody can take a shower, and you're thinking, oh, especially if you live in a
I guess it could
home,
happen if you have a
you know?
huge house. I mean, I had a huge house at one time when I was living in
Yeah.
the city. I had this big, huge house, and my attic was upstairs. It was actually it was a walk-up attic. It was like walking into another room. So, I guess if you live in a house like that, it's possible, but not the house I live in now. It would have to be a teeny tiny little person to live in my attic now.
Well, I found out that there is some truth behind it, because there was a man in Japan who in 2008 he found out that he was actually sharing his home with a 58-year-old woman. There's also I know that some folks have even put, now the posting ones, sometimes I can't believe what you see on YouTube, because we all know that it's gotten very
It's
entertaining.
gotten, it's gotten as bad as TV.
Like, what's real, what's not, right? But that's the great thing about YouTube. But also in 2013, a group of Ohio State University students found that a man had been secretly living in their basement. That was, and also in 2013, which apparently was a good year for living out horrifying urban legends, from what it's recorded here. A woman in Yelm, Washington, found out that someone was not only living in the space under her house, but had actually tampered with her heating ducts to make it more comfortable down there. There you go, Kalila. There you go about the
There you
heating.
go. Yeah, there you go. Oh,
I would be
man.
mad if they mess with my air condition. The
See, but
heat,
that's
I
a
don't really.
reverse kind of urban legend, because you think about the urban legend where the person's in the house and you don't know they're in the house and they're calling you and you're like, leave me alone, go away, and they're in the
This
next
is
room.
why I
I
had
would
to
be
throw a
afraid if I was
curve.
a squatter, because I tell you what, if I found somebody living in my house, I mean, look at Alan. My God, if Alan found somebody living in his house, God help
And
him. I mean,
I had
really.
to throw in the curveball, because urban legends do come from
Well,
some
that
truth.
could be where it comes from, because I mean, certainly, and that the original urban legend with the babysitter story, that came, like you said, from the 50s or 60s,
From the
and back
60s.
then, it was the 60s. Yeah, back then, that's when they came up with telephones where you could actually, and I remember, I'm giving away my age, but who cares? I remember you could call your house from another phone in the house. You'd press certain numbers, and then you'd hang up and it would ring and you'd pick it up and the other person would pick it up and you'd both be on the phone at the same time. They did have that.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess that would be a creepy thing. Somebody in the back of the house. That's a frightening thing though. Somebody in your house and you don't know it, and you're trying to sleep and you hear something bumping around. It's actually somebody in there.
And that's why I found it so
very
unsettling, because the babysitter, there she was, getting that phone call. And in this day and age, now they're using the cell phone as part of that urban legend. Anybody can call now, unknown numbers as well. But the great thing about cell phone is we now see everything.
Well, except now that phone call comes from a Nigerian prince trapped on the space shuttle, trying to send you some money so he can get home.
Yeah, send you money. Send you $5 million.
Oh, that's the one.
The horrible thing about the person living in your house is modern construction methods really honestly have completely eliminated the possibility of that. You would hear somebody going up and down the stairs. You would hear somebody in the attic. There aren't any basements per se much anymore. Everything's on a slab. Now you get into some of these Civil War homes, you get into these Victorian villages where you've got 5,000 square foot or 6,000 square foot homes. You can lose a family member in there for a couple of weeks. I mean, if you don't want to see your mother-in-law, she has a whole suite to herself.
Yeah, there are some big houses out there, and I know that there's some
not
that
necessarily
had hidden rooms and so forth back in the,
I can understand, but some of these houses aren't as mansion-like. I know being up in the East Coast, a lot of these houses, even that were built in the 90s and just late 90s,
but you have to have unused area that somebody can get into,
and you do have some unused areas. You have the what is known as the houses are lift up. They have there's a lot of little secret doors and little areas, and I know a lot of homes that have little secret attic doors and have little secret ways to the basement up here in Virginia area. Why they build it like that, I don't know. And could it be a possibility that could have happened right now in this day and age? I think it could. I think I would be far more worried about
the not so urban legend that the bear moved in under your patio than I am the human.
That could happen, yeah. And that's happened. That has happened. There's documentation.
That happens all the time.
Colorado, Colorado and some of these.
I'm talking Pennsylvania, Ohio, the Northeast.
Yeah.
Of the fact that you send the poor pest control guy down there to see what's bumping around down there, and he opens up the door and there's a bear.
Yeah, there are bears. I mean, we don't live that far away from the Dismal Swamp, so we are aware of bears and strange creatures outside. So, yeah.
And so,
but you know what? I am always feeling better and safe than seeing a roach, because at least I know what to do with big animals. Roaches, though, is a different story. So you know
what you do with the roach? You put a towel.
That's why she doesn't live in Texas anymore.
Close the door. You put a towel there so it can't come under, and you never go in that room again. There's your unused space.
Yeah.
They always find a way.
If she can, yeah.
Roaches always find a way. They know.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
That's an urban legend in itself.
Those are horrible.
I could see Lynda being the one who opened that closet door that she hasn't opened in a year, and we find her stretched out unconscious on the floor because something flew by her.
I will share that story one day with y'all. True story as a teenager. True story.
I think we all have the cockroach flying into our hair story down here.
All I know is that my mom was so angry at me. She just couldn't believe that me and my friends, she found us in the corner crying and screaming for at least an hour. We did not move. We were frozen. That
long after the roach had gone away, probably scared the roach.
It had us cornered.
Well, as a teenager, I used to have, those big phone books that we don't get anymore, the big phone books. And, New Orleans always had a big, thick phone book. If I'd see a roach, what I would do as a teenager, I would take the phone book and I would stand as far away as I could and aim and throw the phone book to where it would boom, hit the roach. Roach gets pounded on by the phone book, and then you just walk around the phone book and you just don't ever pick it up until somebody else picks it up and sees the squashed roach underneath. So, solve that problem.
It's like, killed it, tag, you're it, you clean it. Yeah, I remember doing that too, Kalila.
Many times, people come home and they'd be like, why is there a phone book? And then after a while, they were like, yeah, there was a roach.
Yeah, that is.
It's in random places.
Under there.
All right, so let's take another break. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of these urban legends. Step beyond the veil that separates our world from the world of the spirits with me, Kalila Smith, as we uncover the mysteries of the afterlife. This is a spiritual journey as we try to discover if life really does continue after the physical death. Are after-death communications real, or do we imagine them? Get my book, Afterlife Mysteries Revealed, and find out. Afterlife Mysteries Revealed, available on Amazon.com by Kalila Smith. Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue on with our urban legends. And I'm sure Allan has a real scary one for us.
Oh, Lord.
What you got, Allan? Come on, throw it at us.
Well, let's talk about one that is absolutely 100% documented from its birth forward. A total creation of the internet. Let's talk about Slenderman.
Slenderman.
Now they're staring at me.
Yeah. No, I know.
Slenderman is an utter and complete total creation from the internet.
Really?
And it has never pre-existed anywhere before. Now we've had related stories, but this is like looking in the mirror and saying somebody's name 3 times. Whether it's Candyman, Bloody Mary, Crazy Ivan, there's 1,000 different variations of that.
Beetlejuice.
Well, actually a really funny movie based on, the whole say it 3 times and you might invoke it. I mean, even a 1950s episode of Superman had Great Caesar's ghost being called forward because that's what the guy always said, Great Caesar's ghost. And part of the scam in that episode was that Caesar's ghost actually showed up. So that it's the old words have power, be careful what you call upon, it might answer.
That's true.
Well, the Slender Man is an utter and complete internet creation. It has never pre-existed. There are no references to it, unless you want to pick on something classic like Ichabod Crane or some skinny skeletal thing. But Slender Man is truly and honestly an internet creation. Knowing that it's an internet creation, knowing that it's easily documented as an internet creation and easily followable as an internet creation, people still fall for it.
Well, what is it? I'm not familiar with it because I have kind of skirted over it. I've seen it mentioned and I didn't give it much credence because I'd never heard of it before. So, because I'm more into the old tried and true paranormal type situations. So what is it exactly?
Well, the idea is that you have a character that can basically show up. It's supernatural, of course, and it is normally of tall, featureless. It's wearing a black suit. It may be even a variation of an MIB or something like that. But it is completely an internet creation. The Slender Man might abduct you or just annoy you or just stare in your window. He has many traits of many classic urban legends.
Well, that's not scary.
Well, it is if you look out the window and there's something tall, slender, humanoid, and black staring in your window.
Oh, yeah, I don't look out the window.
You know, I'll even go back to the old legends of the Mad Gassers. And there were numerous, Linda, there were many documented cases of a strange figure seen at the window and they smelled something funny and their face felt, you know, itchy or like a chemical, and then they wouldn't be able to move. So, you know, there were numerous instances of that.
Aren't those
You know,
called peeping toms?
well, the Mad Gasser was even scarier because that was an actual attack. So you had somebody peeping in the window, but they were also gassing you.
Ugh.
But
I don't know
again,
if I
that was
like
the
that.
big fear of the time. The Mad Gassers relate back to the time around World War I and World War II. So mustard gas and basically anything gas was new science at that time. You know, it's really
Is that why?
horrible to remember that going to the dentist did not involve anesthesia until relatively recent in human history.
Is that why they always had those movies back in the 50s and I think late well, yeah, 50s, you know, like the Hammer movies and the later
Oh
movies
yes.
where, you know, they're wearing like like they always use that World War II gas mask. They always like scared people with that. I always wondered what was associated. I mean, it scared me because, you know, anything with those little boggles and that thing sticking out and people looking out. I always wondered if it's associated with that because people would look out and they would see it out the window. I mean, I've seen some clips of trailers and movies of that where, you know, you see the girl going, ah, and, you know.
Actually, probably one of the most terrifying television shows featuring a gas mask was an episode of Doctor Who in which aliens were trying to recreate a scene, but because it was during World War II and people were wearing face masks, wearing
Mhm.
respirators, that they integrated that into what they were trying to recreate, and thus creating a truly terrifying, you know, little creature. It would be a child with a face mask on with the respirator, and it would always be asking, like, are you my mommy? And if it touched you, then you became infected with whatever it was. And then you were walking around, you know, like a zombie with the respirator on your face. So, I mean, this was a modern interpretation of a World War II fear. And this was an amazing adaptation of it. So, you know, for urban legends, I'm sticking with the Slenderman style character. And this is that anything nebulous that is just outside of your control or your ability to do anything about.
Fair enough, yeah. And I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it in some of these paranormal sites where people are coming up with these pictures, you know, because they started out with shadow people and nobody knows who the shadow people are. And I've seen some where they got a shadow of somebody. It's just like a silhouette of a guy and he's got like a hat on, a fedora. It's like, okay, is this supposed to mean something to me? Because I'm not. It's not doing it for me because I don't know what this is, and it's very bizarre looking, and I don't consider it something paranormal. It just kind of looked like, what in the world is that?
Well, anything referred to as Slenderman is not truly paranormal. It is utterly fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
well, now,
I promise you, over the next 20 years, as it becomes more and more entrenched, and there will be more and more variations of it, you know, it will begin to work its way into all of the other urban legends. You know, you could go back in time to the Sherlock Holmes era, and you had Spring-Heeled Jack. And Spring-Heeled Jack was a slender male character dressed in black with a trench coat that could leap ridiculous heights. So, you know, the Spring-Heeled Jack, you know, grabbed a woman's purse and then leapt over the wall. And the wall might be 12 or 15 feet high.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
And, you know, Spring-Heeled Jack was actually taken so seriously that a number of volunteer researchers wound up with broken legs or broken ankles, trying to replicate in the technology of the time how in the world spring-heeled Jack could work. Imagine, the terror, especially when the newspapers got hold of the Mad Gasser or spring-heeled Jack or any of these nebulous characters that are just outside of what you can control.
New Orleans had one years ago called the Needle Man. I remember reading stories about that. The Needle Man, and he would stick people with a needle in a crowd.
And that was an urban legend that actually horrifyingly became a true Russian assassination.
Really?
An old boy felt somebody bump him, and he wound up with a ricin poison injected into his body from the tip of an umbrella. Talk about a bold assassination. So urban legends can also give rise to real events. But I oddly don't think real events give rise to urban legends. I think I can't imagine, well, I'll rephrase it this way. Something had to be the source of the material, because as we've all learned, you can't make anything up better than reality.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
There are some crazy, crazy people out there doing some crazy stuff.
There really are, and it's pretty bad. There's some pretty bad stuff out there.
I can imagine the two of you are both sitting at home right now, peacefully minding your own business, and if you were to suddenly see a nebulous, tall, slender, especially for the two of you, a male figure go by a window in just that briefest of glances, that's going to start your heart. Or there's going to be a nebulous bump that gets your attention and pass the window or run away.
Oh yeah, that would be a little alarming. It really would. That would be.
It would, especially.
That would bug me.
I mean, tall people just alarm me. Period. I'm sure.
So I'm going to pick on the heir apparent to all these nebulous characters is now Slenderman. But I promise you, we could have the same conversation in 10 years, and we already have people telling us, well, the Slender Man made me do it.
Yes. There was a case, exactly what Allan is saying. I mean, the Slender Man is something that I think was just created when YouTube was starting to pop out, and kids were like using that visual. And, it's funny how his birth is that he abducts children and he terrorizes and scares
that could be
children.
very, very real. Yeah, there's a lot of people.
So of course, as Allan said, someone took that story and then it became a case because two girls decided to lead a friend out and they tried to murder their friend, and they said Slender Man told them to. So this is this is what is the sick thing about some urban legends can start a trend of some bad things out there.
Absolutely. Well, let's take another break, and we're going to come right back. And I've got an urban legend that actually caused something else to happen, and we'll talk about that when we get back. Follow me, Kalila Smith, into the mysterious world of spirits. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters, is a concise how-to manual for anyone who enjoys a good ghost hunt. Learn the history of spiritualism, learn what a ghost is and what is not. Learn the truth about poltergeist. We'll also delve into the realm of spiritual beings that never were human, the world of demons, real vampires, and we'll look at some real case studies. This is a must-have for everyone interested in ghost hunting, from the novice to the expert. Completely updated in its second edition, this is one of the first guides for ghost hunting based on actual first-hand experiences. Available on Amazon.com. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters by Kalila Smith. Okay, so we're back, and there was another urban legend. I mean, coming from New Orleans, we had urban legends like crazy around here, and one of my favorite ones, of course, was from the teenage years, and this is a very classic one. It is where the young woman drowns for whatever reason. There's a lot of variations to the story,
Mm.
and I'm sure there's a lot of variations of what they call the story in other places. But for us here in New Orleans, it came from our lagoon at City Park,
Right.
and it was called Mona Lisa Lagoon, and it was in the back of the park, and as teenagers we would drive all the way back there, and of course the idea was supposedly you get out of the car, you walk up to the waterway, and you look into the water and you see your reflection in there, and you say Mona Lisa 3 times, and
Hmm.
she rises from the water, and of course she comes out and she's terrorizing teenagers back there. Now, granted, what the trend was at the time when I was a teenager was you would get some new kid you didn't know very well.
Hmm.
You'd go back there, you'd send him up to say Mona Lisa, you drive off and you hear him screaming. So, but nonetheless, it's a great, great urban legend. It's very classic New Orleans, and it became so popular that they began to call the Lagoon Mona Lisa Lagoon. Now, the reason I called her Mona Lisa, this is very interesting because supposedly it was a girl named Lisa that died. Supposedly it was the original property owner who owned a plantation who had a daughter named Lisa, and Lisa drowned in the lagoon. And like I said, there's a lot of variations to the stories. One being that she wanted to marry someone, a particular gentleman who was a sailor, and her father didn't want to, said no, we're not having it. And she threw herself into the lagoon and drowned herself. And that Lisa roamed the property, and her woeful moans gave way to her being called the Moaning Lisa. They would call her Moaning Lisa. And of course, with the New Orleans accent, or Moaner Lisa, but with the New Orleans accent, we don't say R, so it was Mona Lisa. So she was the Mona, she moaned, she was the Mona. So Mona Lisa, and it became Mona Lisa Lagoon, and they made a Mona Lisa Drive, and in the 20s, they started doing all this Art Deco stuff and started having statues, and somebody even made a statue to honor Mona Lisa. And it became a very, very popular part of our culture, our urban legend and our culture of the times. And by the 1980s, it seemed to kind of fade out. Teenagers started finding something new to talk about, but I never forgot Mona Lisa. So, of course, when I started teaching a class on folklore, I always told everybody about Mona Lisa. And consequently, when we started doing a tour where we brought people to City Park, I thought, what a great place to take them to the lagoon and tell them the Mona Lisa story. Now, here's where it gets creepy. Here's where it gets scary. Because when I started taking people to this location and getting them out of the bus, now it's dark, there's oak trees around, there's Spanish moss hanging, it's dark, it's creepy, you've got all these frogs, you got little eyes coming at you from the lagoon, you don't know what it is. So
you got 8 points on the Scooby-Doo meter right there.
Oh, I got the Scooby-Doo meter going. It's all amped up. It's amped up. So my back is to the lagoon, and I'm always praying, God, please don't let an alligator come and, grab me from behind. But I'm telling this story, and people, of course, taking pictures. And something weird started happening. As I would tell the story, people started getting photographs of something white coming up out of the water. As I was telling the story and then going back down. One lady even took, when you get those burst of shots and it'll do like 70 shots, and you could see it where it just looked like a white thing coming up and going back down. That was very transparent. So it's very bizarre because it seems that we told the story so many times that maybe we gave life to something that's in that lagoon, and maybe it really is our dear little Mona Lisa. What do you think, Alan?
Well, she is in every urban lake in every major city around the world. That's all I got to say. That Lisa has drowned at least 1,000 times.
But we do have pictures of her. She says something manifests. Something manifests in that area where we were telling that story. And
at night over water. No, we've never heard of fog or mist. No, that never happened.
No, this is I'm gonna post pictures. I'm gonna find some pictures and I'm gonna post them on there. And it's very interesting because in this particular spot where we talk about this picture, this this story, there's a big oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, we've had some very strange photographs happening right there at that tree in front of that lagoon. And when I say very interesting photographs, I am talking about literally having figures show up that were not present when we took the picture. Like all of a sudden you take a picture and then you look and you go, hey, wait, who's this person over by the tree? And that was somebody that's not there.
Mm.
So I think
Yeah.
sometimes you can tell a story enough that maybe if you energize it or something, maybe you attract something else there that's going to make the story real for you. What do you think,
I
Lynda?
think if you take a picture of a tree every day at 10 p.m. at night, eventually you're going to get something anomalous. I just think it's inevitable.
I don't know.
What is it?
What is it? Because of the fact
What
that
is it?
I mean,
when I'm there, I can tell you. If I'm sitting here talking to you, I can go.
Well, you know what, Alan? There you go.
this,
Come on down.
been,
Come on down. We'll take you out to the tree. We'll take you out there.
I've
There is
accepted
something
that
about that
challenge many
tree.
times before.
You have
There is
accepted that
something
challenge
about that
many
tree.
times in tour, but if you say, I have to be there, I'll go, come on, let's go. Let's go. But yeah, I'll have to post some photographs because it's very interesting. And this is some phenomena that's taken place, basically spawned by telling the story of an urban legend. And I even started off by telling people this is an urban legend. So, this is just a fun little story we tell. And then all of a sudden we started getting pictures of what looked like the ghost.
Like I've always said, I don't worry about the dead. It is the power of the living that amazes me.
We have some great power, huh?
I'm just saying, a busload of teenagers, you can generate enough fear factor, you could bottle it and sell it.
Well, you could, yes.
It's, the great thing about an urban legend is a lot of times it is the modern Grimm's fairy tale. It is the cautionary tale. If you go across these abandoned railway tracks and you get back over to those woods, the goat man is going to get you.
Well,
or the prairie man's going to get you, or the grass man's going to get you, or the werewolf of Wisteria Lane lives way back in there. A lot of these are those cautionary tales, and a lot of the urban legends are, just to be honest, stuff that may have happened once in a million times. I can't remember anybody ever biting an apple and getting a razor blade. Urban legend. Just, it's just something that was in a John Carpenter movie one time.
Well, no. I can remember being a kid, and they used to x-ray our candy, and they would find stuff in candy. They really would.
See, that's like when they x-ray stuff at the airport. You forget things, kids pick stuff up, and of course, no child is ever not going to lie while you're sitting there looking through their candy basket that, oh yeah, I picked up a bunch of this, let's put the word stuff in there, as I was walking around the streets. Yeah, no, see, what idiot in their right mind with people walking up to your address would hang out and hand you bad stuff? The neighbor you always hated was the ding dong that gave you a tube of toothpaste. That was the one that was your urban, that's where the word went around. You go, don't go to the Brown house. He's giving out orange juice. Now, you went and saw the crazy little cat lady who was handing out bags of, peanut butter cups. That's the one you went and hit. But, you always had that one crazy neighbor that dressed up, did the yard, and then gave out the worst possible stuff. But we've gotten so insane with this urban legend that we don't even trick or treat anymore. Really,
I
honestly.
talking about I trick or treat.
Yeah, well, it's scary. It's a scary world out there. But we're going
But
to have
it's
to
not.
start wrapping things up, guys. Now, if you guys have a story you want us to talk about, you have a scary story you want us to examine, talk about, recite, discuss, you have it. You please send it to us. You can send it to us on our group page, Scary Stories with Kalila on Facebook. We have a public group you can join. We also have the page. Please like it. Give us a big like. Or you can email it to us. You can email us at scarieststories@yahoo.com. And just send us your scary stories, and your story might be told on this television show. And if it's good enough and you got some evidence, we might even put you on the show. So you just never can tell. So we're going to say goodnight for now, and we hope you join us for another show. Pleasant dreams.
Good night.